Okay, now in this video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the use cases for ChatGPT. Now, I've got a bunch written down, and I'm sure you have so many more in your head, but I'm going to go through an example of each one of these and show you some of the ways you can use ChatGPT today. Alright, now in this video, we're going to go through a bunch of use cases for ChatGPT. So ways you can use ChatGPT today and the ways that it can make your life a lot easier. Now, there are a bunch of ways you can use ChatGPT, and we're going to start off with research. Now, depending on what your job is or what you do in your day-to-day life, research is something that you pretty much do a lot of the time. Now, whether that's searching Google or looking up YouTube videos and tutorials, research is something that ChatGPT has made a lot easier. Now, what we're going to do is jump straight into ChatGPT and ask it a question. So I'm going to ask, what are some of the health benefits of drinking water, and provide scientific facts to back this. Now, if I hit enter, I wait for the response, and now it starts telling me a lot of facts about drinking water, explains the benefits, and answers the question for me. Now, why would I use ChatGPT over a simple Google search? Quite simply, the fact that ChatGPT has the information from a bunch of different websites, a lot of different information, and simplifies it and summarizes it into this short paragraph. Now, of course, if you want to go into more detail into a specific point, you can do just that. So as it's typing this out, I can have a look at one of these points and say, for example, point number 5, it says flushing out toxins. Now I can ask ChatGPT to elaborate on that topic. So can you elaborate on the point? And I give it the point, and I just say, wrong one. If I just grab flushing out toxins. And what it'll do is it'll actually give you a response to that. Now, this is the chat part of GPT. So GPT on its own was pretty much the language model that processed this information. But the fact that we've got ChatGPT that's built on top of this intellectual mind, obviously artificial intelligence, we're able to converse as though we're having a general conversation. So it comes back with an answer like this and pretty much does the research for me. Now, another use case I want to take a look at is creative writing. So what we can do with ChatGPT is ask it to write something creative for us. Now, that can be a poem, it can be a story, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with a story. Now, the best way to get, I guess, the most out of ChatGPT when it comes to creative writing is to give it the best prompt possible. Now, we'll go more into that when we get to the topic of prompt engineering, but before we even get into that, I'm just going to ask it to write me a short story. Now, of course, I need to let ChatGPT know what the story is going to be about. So I've said, write a short story about a boy who lived down the road. Super brief, there's nothing really detailed, but you'll be surprised, ChatGPT can actually produce a story about something so simple. So if I say write a story about a boy who lived down the road, it gives me even a character name, it tells me where he lived, beautiful garden. It'll write the entire story for you. Now, one of the things that I've noticed with ChatGPT is actually the character limit. Now, I haven't gone and exactly measured what the character limit is, and I don't actually think there is a specific character limit, but you'll notice that the outputs aren't too long. They probably run the size of your desktop screen, maybe a few paragraphs. But if you're writing a story, obviously this isn't going to be a novel. You know, it'll write this amount of text, and that's not going to be the size of a novel. Now, one of the ways I've found to be able to extend the responses or get the most out of ChatGPT when it comes to creative writing is to break up my prompts into sections. So if you're writing a novel, I would break it up into chapters, and I would even break the chapters into smaller sections. So if I have a story in mind and, for example, I know what the plot is going to be roughly, but I just want ChatGPT to fill in those gaps, I'll break that down to little points, each of the events that happens, and ask ChatGPT to explain those or expand on those points. So that was for creative writing. We can ask it to write us a poem if I just said the same thing instead of a short story, and it'll do exactly that. Now, if we're going to take it a little bit further than creative writing and we want to look at daily content, the content that we're writing on a day-to-day basis, we might be looking at things like blog posts. Blog posts are things that a lot of people write very frequently, and ChatGPT can do just that. So if we want to write a blog post and we know a topic, let's say I run a baby company, I sell baby products, I want to write a blog post about baby toys. I can go ahead and jump into ChatGPT and just type in the prompt, write a blog post about baby toys. Again, remember the prompts that I'm including in this section of the course are super general, very generic. They're not going to be specific and therefore not give the best outcome. But I'm just trying to give you an idea of the different ways we can use ChatGPT. So if we go ahead and say, write a blog post about baby toys, we hit enter, wait for ChatGPT to respond, it gives us a blog post about baby toys. Now, of course, if I'm running a baby toy company, every blog post is going to be about a specific topic. So I might talk about choking hazards, I might talk about where you can buy the best baby toys, I might even talk about different baby toys for different ages. So I will be very specific in the prompts that I give ChatGPT. But now you can see it's already written a blog post, and like I said earlier in the previous section, it's super short. So again, I probably want to tell it to elaborate, I probably want to give it an outline, and also go piece by piece to write this blog post. On the topic of content generation, or in a similar context, ChatGPT can also summarize things. And it doesn't even have to be things you've provided to ChatGPT. It can be things that exist on the internet, or things that are, I guess, general knowledge or should be easily accessible. So one of the things that exists here is a legal act called the New South Wales Real Property Act 1990. And what I want to do is I want to ask ChatGPT to summarize that for me. So I just want to say, summarize the New South Wales Real Property Act 1990. And without providing any other information, ChatGPT is able to pull that information and provide a summary on that. It's given me roughly about, right now we're at 6, 7. We'll see how many points it stops at. 9, maybe 10. No. So it's given me 9 points to summarize that act. And if you look at that act, that goes it's very long, lots of pages. And if I want to go again into a specific one of these, I can just say, can you elaborate on registration of title? And it'll elaborate on that exact point. So it'll go into that, provide information on that topic. Again, this falls under research, but it's, I guess, more limited to information that exists out there, large pieces of content, and being able to provide a summary for that content. Now, the final point on content generation is actually a big one, and we can pretty much have an entire section on this, but obviously I don't want to go into too much detail to take away from the rest of the course. But this is on social media content generation. Social media is filled with different ways that you can generate content, and that includes social media captions, titles. Again, we spoke about blog posts. You might be creating ads, so you want to create ad descriptions, things like that. And what you can do is ask ChatGPT to generate that content for you. So now let's say I have a photo that I want to upload to Instagram, and it's a photo of me and my puppy. I want to ask ChatGPT to generate a caption for that. Here's where it gets more interesting. Obviously, on different platforms, there are, I guess, different things that you want to consider. So with Instagram, you want to consider the hashtags that you're uploading. So if I go ahead and type this, I say generate an Instagram caption for a photo of me and my puppy. I want to also add at the end of that, include relevant hashtags. Lo and behold, ChatGPT can do exactly that. I can't believe I get to wake up to this little fluff ball every day. Hashtag puppy love, dogs of Instagram, cute puppies. If I want more hashtags, I can ask it to do that. One of the funny things I got was Instagram actually telling me how many hashtags Instagram lets you have, probably what the ideal amount is. I can also change this and just say, I can hit the regenerate button so I can get another caption if I don't like that one. Or another tip in here is to actually ask it to generate a range. Can you generate 5? Simple as that, and it'll give me 5 more captions that I guess fit the context of the description and prompt that I provided. It'll also give me the hashtags in each one of those responses because that's what I asked for in my prompt. You'll also notice ChatGPT is also providing captions with emojis, which is super cool. Makes it so much easier for you to just copy and paste those into your Instagram profile. If you want to take this one step further, I'm going to put this to the test and we can say, are there any accounts I should tag when posting this? And so ChatGPT actually suggests a bunch of Instagram accounts that we can tag. Puppy Love Gram, Puppies of Instagram, and it goes through and pretty much gives you information to make your life easier when generating content for your social media platforms. It is important to know that every platform is different, so you may want to consider letting ChatGPT know which platform you want the content for. So if I say I want an Instagram post, the content will probably be different to if I asked for a LinkedIn post. That's pretty much a wrap on content generation, but I got one more for us, and that's code generation. So there is another model that's used for code generation. You'll probably see a lot of videos and posts on Instagram, other social media platforms, talking about how developers are losing their jobs. And that's because ChatGPT is actually able to generate full-fledged code. I can ask it to write me code in a different language. I can ask it to build a website for me. What you will notice though, as a developer using ChatGPT, is that ChatGPT can't do any tasks specifically for you that involve uploading the website to the internet, deploying it obviously to a hosting site. When you build your application, it obviously can't deploy it to the App Store. It can't do a whole bunch of other things that need that human touch at this point. So it can generate code for you and also help push you in the right direction. I use it a lot pretty much as a side assistant when programming. If I get stuck on a piece of code, I can ask it to help me out there, or to speed up some of my day-to-day tasks when programming. But as a code generator or something that can build an entire website or write an entire app for you, it's not at that level. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to say write an HTTP request in JavaScript using node fetch. Notice that I've specified the exact node package that I want it to use. I use node fetch. You can use Axios. Don't mind my pronunciation, but if I hit enter, it'll give me an example of an HTTP GET request and pretty much gives you all the code. I'm looking at this now, and as a developer, I can tell you I can copy and paste this into my Node.js or into my JavaScript code, and it'll work. But the cool thing about code generation with ChatGPT and where the chat part comes into GPT is the fact that it actually provides an explanation about the code. It explains the code, tells you why it's doing what it's doing, and explains what the code does. Now, in this case, it's given us an example of a GET request and also a POST request. It's also told us we can use POST, put, delete, and a whole bunch of other information around this. Now, if I said, can you use the Axios library? And it'll let us know that we sure can, and it'll give me an example using exactly that. So if you have a certain tech stack that you like to use, or there are certain libraries that you prefer to use over others, you can go ahead and let ChatGPT know exactly that, and it'll provide you with information around that. So what will happen is if I tell it that I want to use the Axios library or I would rather use node fetch, it'll provide me with a code snippet using that framework. There is one last use case that I want to cover, and that is education. So for students or even educators, this is a huge win where we can jump right into ChatGPT and ask it pretty much anything that would assist a student in their studies. It is important to note that you will get better responses focusing on content generation and content-based topics. If you do ask it things like math questions, it will give you an answer. In a lot of the cases, it's not formatted the best, so maybe that's an improvement to come in the future. But if we were to ask it, give me 3 questions to test my knowledge on the process of mitosis. Let's make sure I fix that spelling. It'll do just that. And I'm waiting for the response. Here we are. What is mitosis? What is the purpose? How many daughter cells are produced? And it'll go on and provide those questions. Now, I asked it for 3. I can ask for 2 more. And it'll give me 2 more questions. So if you want to focus on SAT questions or SAT topics, you just let ChatGPT know that, say provide information on this topic for my SATs, and it'll give you a lot more appropriate response. So in this section, we covered a whole bunch of use cases, and that pretty much covers a lot of the main use cases for ChatGPT. The next section is where it gets a little more interesting, where we start going and diving into prompt engineering. Now, I'll explain exactly what that is in the next video, so stay tuned, because this is where we start to tailor our responses to make them a lot more effective and a lot more appropriate to what we're looking for.